Hello everyone, how are you? Are you guys alright? My name is Gizem, nice to see you all here. I see some familiar people, hi, welcome back, and I see some new people, welcome. Let me share my screen really quickly so that we can start. Alright, yes. I think you can see my screen, right? Yes. All right. So anytime you want to ask me any questions or tell me anything or answer any questions that I might ask, you can use the chat box to answer me. And if you have anything to say, also you can use the chat box too. Today we will have our writing workshop together and we will specifically focus on task 2, one of task 2 essays, which is an agree disagree essay for today. So if you have any questions, you can use the chat box. If not, we will start with our band descriptors, which are the criteria that they evaluate you on, basically. All right, seems like there are no questions. Let's start with the band descriptors then. So IELTS evaluates this part, task 2, on 4 criteria, which are task response, coherence and cohesion, lexical resources, and grammatical range and accuracy. And this is the public version that IELTS publishes, so you can see this, get access to this anytime you want if you just Google it. And as you can see, there are details as to which band score requires which criteria and how much you need to do there. So I think it really helps you if you kind of look at these descriptors in detail, and you can also score your essays based on these descriptions. All right, let's start with task achievement. So to get a good grade in task achievement part, you need to answer the question. And to do that, you need to also understand the question type. As I've said before, we will today focus on agree disagree essays. So for example, if you get an agree disagree essay, it's really important to understand that it's an agree disagree essay and write your essay accordingly. And in a double question essay, they have one statement with two different questions after it. And the questions may or may not be linked, so you have to also pay attention to that too. And to get a good grade in task achievement, you need to make your position or opinion clear if the question asks for it. And you need to use the correct essay structure, which is consisting of four paragraphs, one introduction, two body paragraphs, and a conclusion. And you need to write at least 250 words. So that means you need to write more than 250 words. If you write less than that, you won't be able to get a good score, unfortunately. For the second criteria, coherence and cohesion, you need to plan your essay as a whole and you need to give examples and provide evidences. IELTS really looks at those small details that you add to your essay, and you actually get points from those detailed examples and evidences and supporting ideas. So whenever you're writing an essay, no matter which type of essay it is, you need to make sure that you're giving examples and evidences. I think that's really, really important. And throughout the essay, you need to be consistent. So you cannot change your answer while you're writing the essay. You need to stick with one opinion and always agree or disagree or kind of come to the same conclusion, if you know what I mean. Thirdly, we have lexical resources, which is your use of vocabulary. So, to get a good grade, to get a good band score in lexical resource criteria, you need to use a wide range of vocabulary, which means that you need to have both simple vocabulary, like let's say good, but you also need to know some advanced vocabulary and you need to kind of know more of those advanced academic vocabulary. And you need to be able to use them correctly in your essay, which is another point. So there can be rare minor errors in your use of vocabulary, but overall you need to show that you have a good vocabulary range and you need to use them precisely. So they need to be correct. And you need to use synonyms where possible. I find this really, really important. So for example, if the question asks you something saying if something is important, you need to change that important to something else like significant, crucial, or vital, or stuff like that. So whenever you can, you need to use the synonyms of the words that are already used before, either by you or by the question. And of course, some words don't have direct synonyms, in which case you need to try to rewrite the whole sentence. So you can change the grammatical structure of that sentence, which would help you paraphrase that statement. And paraphrasing is also as important as using synonyms because it's also part of what we're doing. And you need to try to use some uncommon words related to the subject. So, for example, you shouldn't always say people, person, and individual, and etc., like those general things. You need to also use some words that are context related. So, for example, if the question is asking you something about maybe teachers and students, you need to use students or let's say professors or stuff like that. Different words that are accurate in that context. And lastly, we have grammatical range and accuracy. I think it's pretty straightforward. You need to use a lot of different grammar structures for the examiner to be able to assess your score really good. So, for example, you need to use simple sentences and also compound sentences, which connect two ideas together using and, for, yet, but, so, or nor. And you also need to use some complex sentences, and to use complex sentences, you need to use different linking words, relative clauses, noun clauses, whatever you can, basically. And you need to connect two sentences using different conjunctions, linking words, relative clauses, whatever you can. And you can see some examples of linking words, conjunctions here. What I would do if I were you, I would choose some of them and try to use them all in all of my essays, which would guarantee that I would be using them correctly. And also, it would guarantee that I have a lot of different grammar structures. Then we have passive sentences, question sentences, and conditional sentences, which include modal verbs and if clauses. What you should do is you should include at least one or two of each of these sentence types, because then the examiner can know that you know all these different sentence types, which will help you with your overall score, basically. All right. Do you have any questions regarding the band descriptors, the band scores, and the criteria? If yes, you can use the chat box to ask me any questions. If not, we will continue with some common mistakes that test takers usually make. All right, so let's move on to the common mistakes. All right. So there are some common errors in IELTS agree-disagree essays, which are not stating an opinion and not supporting your opinion with clear reasons, examples, details, basically. So if the question asks for your opinion and it will, since this is an agree-disagree question, you need to make your position clear. So you need to give an opinion in the essay. And you also need to support your opinion with relevant details, examples, and reasons, basically. These are really, really important in your overall score because it shows if you understand the question type or not. Now, how to write an agree-disagree essay. As we've talked about, we need to write 4 different paragraphs. And in the first paragraph, we need to write an introduction, which introduces the topic, right? And I think it's really important and easy part of writing an essay, writing the introduction, because all you need to do is paraphrase the question that is given to you, give your opinion, and state 2 supporting reasons. And you will talk about those supporting reasons in your body paragraphs. So basically, you don't have to add too much in the introduction paragraph. Only 3 sentences are okay and fine and more than enough. So, what you need to do again is to paraphrase the question, give your opinion, and state your 2 supporting reasons. And to paraphrase the question, let's remember what it was. To paraphrase the question, you need to change the grammatical structure of the question, and also you need to use synonyms where possible, which will result in a paraphrased sentence. In the main body paragraphs, what you need to do first is to write a topic sentence. And this is really important. It doesn't matter whether you agree or disagree with the essay. but you need to give relevant supporting reasons for your ideas. So, in the first body paragraph, you will outline the first reason for supporting that view, and you need to explain and give examples or expand the idea. So you need to give details, relevant ideas, relevant supporting reasons in both body paragraphs for two different reasons why you agree or disagree with that statement. And lastly, you need to write a conclusion, which means that you need to summarize your opinions and key reasons for doing so. Any questions regarding the outlining of the essay and how to write the paragraphs? If not, we will have a question and an example essay together. We will read a sample essay. Any questions before we move on? All right, seems like there are no questions. Very good. Let's move on to the second page. So, as we've said, we're writing a task 2 essay right now. And for the task 2 essay, you approximately have 40 minutes. For those of you who don't know, the writing of the IELTS, the academic writing of the IELTS part, gives you 60 whole minutes to write 2 essays. So you need to complete both of your essays, both task 1 and task 2, in that 60 minutes. And it doesn't stop when it's, for example, 20 minutes. You need to arrange your time accordingly on your own. So, however fast or slow you're writing your essay actually affects how much time you have left for the second task. And the second task affects your score more than the first task. So I would advise you to spend 40 minutes on this one. And I also advises you to do that too. So you should spend about 40 minutes on this essay. And you need to write about this topic. And it says we also need to give reasons for our answer and include any relevant examples from our own knowledge or experience. Now, let's read the question together. The question today is in the future, nobody will buy printed newspapers or books because they will be able to read everything they want online without pay. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? This is really important. When the question asks you, to what extent do you agree or disagree? You don't have to only agree or disagree. So you don't have to either agree or disagree. You can also say, I agree with this statement to some extent. So I agree in these parts, for example, but I don't agree with these parts. So you can use both of these, both agreeing and disagreeing, if the question says to what extent. But if the question only says, do you agree or disagree, you need to choose whether you should agree or disagree. Let me clarify that. So, when the question says, to what extent, you don't have to choose between agreeing or disagreeing. You can say, I agree with this to this extent, but I disagree with this part of this question. But if only says, do you agree or disagree, you need to choose whether you will agree or disagree with the statement. Now, let's find some ideas for this topic. Again, it doesn't matter whether you agree, disagree, or agree to some extent. What we will do right now is you will say whether you agree or disagree and give your two supporting reasons for this idea, for agreeing or disagreeing. So Mohammed says that he's agreeing with this statement. For example, Mohammed, can you write your reasons for agreeing with this? And while you guys are doing that, while you guys are forming an outline, I will answer Mariam's question. Mariam says, can we write task 2 and then task 1? No, unfortunately, you cannot do that. You need to write the essays in the same order that they're asked, and they will ask the first task first and then the second task. So you need to finish the first task and you need to write the second task. So you cannot go back to the first task. You need to complete it as a whole and then move on to the second task. All right. Let's hear your opinions. Do you agree or disagree with this and why? What are your reasons? Two people agree with this statement. Give me your reasons. Why do you agree that in the future nobody will buy printed newspaper or books because they will be able to read everything they want online without paying? Why do you guys agree with this? Oh, yeah. Answer says in paper-based exam we can do either of the essays. Yes, of course. I was answering that question for the computer-based exam. If you're taking the paper-based exam, you can do whatever you want, basically, because you will be seeing all the questions at once. So you can move on to writing and start with task 2 and then move on to the first task. But if you're taking the computer-based exam, that's a little bit different. But what I would do still, I would finish the first task first, and then I would move on to the second task because it is more important and I will spend more time on it. So, for example, if I start with the second task, since it's more important and since I have more time, I will probably write and write, and I will probably focus on my mistakes and correcting them. And at the end, I probably won't have enough time to write a good task one essay. So, still, I would advise you to finish the first task first and then move on to the second one. Anna says that she disagrees with this, saying papers and books are more appealing for some people, not so harmful for the eyes. I think these are really good points. So, Anna disagrees, saying some people like it, so matter of choice maybe. And other reason, yes, is it's not harmful for the eyes, so maybe not harmful. All right, I think these are really good points. And whenever you're thinking about your opinions, your reasons for agreeing or disagreeing, what I would do is I would also find examples and explanations. Because if I cannot explain something in detail, eventually I won't be able to score that well. So I would try to think about my examples and explanations while thinking about the reasons. So, for example, how would we exemplify the argument that says it's a matter of choice? And whenever you have to say anything, you can use the chat box or you can raise your hand and ask me anything. Mohammed, I see you're raising your hand. I need to, um, yeah, actually, I can give you the floor right now. Okay, you can ask me any questions. Mohammed, are you there? You can speak. Or was that by mistake? All right, maybe that was by mistake. So let's read Anna's agree arguments. So Anna says, I agree because we can reduce carbon footprints. Yes, agree. Reducing carbon footprints. I think this is also a really good point. Another reason for online newspaper is that it's available on phone, which one carry everywhere. Yes, so it's available all the time. I think these are really good reasons, and you also seem to be able to explain them. So you can use either of these or both of these and write an essay, an altogether essay. But what I also want to point out that even if we can say we agree with this to some extent and disagree with this to some extent, we need to also have a clear position. So you need to make sure that you're balancing your ideas really well. Mariam says, agreed because technology is getting advanced now and it's more easy to access any kinds of information online and whenever and wherever we want. Yes, so availability, yes, and it's getting advanced. So we can say advanced technology, yes. Nina says everything is online and easy to access. Yes, so I think um, accessibility, availability is a common point that we've all kind of supporting. So I think these are fine. I just want to again remind you that you need to also think about your examples and explanations, your supporting ideas, because at the end of the day, explaining our idea is what matters rather than the ideas that we have. All right, I think that was really good. What you need to do before you actually start writing your essay is this. So you need to decide whether you agree or disagree and form an outline, in which case you need to also find your supporting reasons and arguments. And then when you're actually writing the essay, you won't have to think about anything else than your English. So when you have your points and examples ready before you start writing the essay, you won't have to think about what to write. You will only think about how to write those things and how to better write those things, which will help you with your overall score again, because you will be using different grammar structures and different vocabularies based on the answers that you already get in the outline. And also, while forming the outline, it's really helpful to write down some words that we can use in our essay. So, for example, instead of saying buy, for example, or pay, what can we say? What can we use? Buy or pay. Or we can change the meaning, but also say something similar. So we don't have to exactly say buy or pay, but we can say get, right? So we can get our newspapers or get our news. What else? What are some words, some synonyms that we can use that are already used in this sentence? So, for example, what can we use instead of because? Anna says we can use purchase instead of buy. A really good synonym, yes. All right, what can we use instead of because? How else can we say because or give the same meaning as because? I think you guys know this. So I'm waiting for a few seconds. What can we say instead of because? And it doesn't have to be the same, it can also be like something similar. Yes, we can say so that. We cannot say although because although is a contrasting linking word. So although is more similar to though, even though, but, however. So they're all contrasting words. So although, though, even though, but, and however can be used interchangeably, but we cannot use it to mean because. All right, we can also use since, as, due to, owing to, and because of, for example. So we can use all these, or we can say therefore, hence, that's why. So there are a lot of different ways of giving that cause effect relationship, which are some of which are these. And what I would do if I were you, if I didn't know any of these, or if I didn't know how to give the same meaning of these synonyms, I would study for those linking words and conjunctions that I can use often, and I would choose maybe four of them, four of each of them, and I would use them in my essay interchangeably. So that I know that I can use the synonyms of at least some words, which would help you a lot with your overall score. All right, so let's write the introduction paragraph together. Let's remember in the introduction paragraph, we need to paraphrase the statement, the question, and we need to give our opinion. And also, we need to state two supporting reasons, which we have already found here. So we can say it is argued that in the future, printed publications will be completely replaced by online publications, and they will be accessible for free. Although I agree that online publications will take over the publishing world, I don't agree that they will be without a fee. The reasons for my arguments will be discussed in the upcoming paragraphs. So, as you can see, we've written only 3 sentences here, but there are a lot of different stuff going on. So, for example, I completely changed the first sentence to it's argued that in the future, printed publications, so newspapers, will be completely replaced by online publications and they will be accessible for free. So, without paying instead of for free. And we said instead of printed newspaper or books, we said printed publications. And we also used a simple connecting sentence. saying and we've also used a complex one, saying although, and we connected two different sentences. And we said that we agree with this statement to some extent, but we don't agree with another part of this. And we said we will give our reasons. At the last sentence, you can do two different things. You can either state your two supporting reasons, saying, for example, it will reduce carbon footprints and it will be available everywhere. Or you can say like this, I will talk about these. So you don't have to always give your reasons, state your reasons in the last sentence. You only need to say that you will give some reasons for that. But what I would choose to do is would be to kind of actually say my points instead of saying I will explain these. I would include my points in the last sentence of the introduction paragraph. Mariam says, do we have to write both agree and disagree points? No, not really. What you can do is you can either agree or disagree, or say you agree with it to some extent, but disagree with it to some extent. So you don't have to say you agree or disagree or agree to some part of it. You can do all of these things, whichever you wish to do, basically. All right, any other questions before we move on to the body paragraphs? All right, so let's move on to the body paragraphs. Let's see here. So in the first body paragraph, we will give the first reason for supporting this view or not supporting this view, saying, firstly, I agree that there's a rapidly growing trend towards ebooks and e-readers because of the practicalness and environmental reasons. So we're giving two reasons, right? It's practical and it's more environmentally friendly. It says nowadays most people have at least one device they can use to read books and documents. You can store many reading materials in one device, which is easy to carry. Also, published books cause detriments to trees. To diminish environmental harm, people tend to read ebooks. I was a collector too. Then, 4 years ago, I bought an e reader too. And since then, I have been reading e publications. So, as you can see, there are a lot of I's and personal opinions in this paragraph. Why do you think that is the case? Because usually in academic essays, we shouldn't use I or my, right? But in IELTS essays, since the question asks us to give any relevant examples from our own knowledge and experience, so our knowledge and experience, we can easily use I or my or you whenever we want. I still wouldn't choose to use you because we're not actually talking to a person. But other than that, we can use I comfortably and it will be okay. Uh, it won't reduce your points, for example. So that's why we used I was a collector too. I agree. I bought an e-reader and stuff like that. And what's also good about this body paragraph is that it has a lot of details about two of the reasons. So, for example, in the first one, it says most people have at least one device that they can use to read books and documents. So, we're giving details. They have those devices to use uh, for reading. And we can say, and we also say, we can store many reading materials in one device and it's easy to carry. So we kind of support our idea of practicalness, right? Everything comes down and is connected to our main point and our main topic, which is really important because you shouldn't go off topic while explaining your ideas. And we also give a lot of details for our second reason too, saying published books cause detriment to trees and using ebooks instead of instead of paper ones, we can diminish environmental harm, which are, I think, great points and really good detailing. And we also use a lot of different words, vocabulary, and grammar wise. So we say rapidly growing trend instead of saying popular, for example. And we also say diminish harm detriment, detrimental, whatever. We're kind of always changing the words that we already used. And that's really important, as I said, to use synonyms and paraphrase versions, because then the examiner can see for himself or herself that you know all these different words and grammar structures, and thus they will give you a better score overall. Let's read the second main body paragraph. And in the second body paragraph, remember that we kind of agreed but also disagreed with the statements in the introduction paragraph, saying this. What we will do in the second body paragraph is that we will talk about the part that we disagree with. So the fees, right? Let's see how it goes. It says, on the other hand, since we were agreeing with this statement in the first part, but we will disagree with this statement in the second part, we use a contrasting linking word saying, on the other hand, I disagree that these publications will be free of charge. Although people can download books for free, some people understand this is not ethical and prefer buying them. The publication is a huge industry, and people and companies need revenue to maintain their rep operations. For example, newspapers and magazines charge people for annual memberships to support the continuity of their work. Publishing houses release ebook versions of printed books, but for a fair price. So, as you can see, we talked about the parts that we disagree with while also saying that we agree with it to some extent in the first body paragraph. And we did not change our opinion in this essay. We said we disagree and agree with this statement, and we explained both of them. But if you say you agree with the statement, you need to only explain the agreeing part and the reasons for agreeing. And again, this body paragraph is really good because it used different linking words, conjunctions, and different vocabulary, saying, for example, annual memberships, or ebook versions, or printed books. I think that's why these are really good body paragraphs, really strong ones. What I would do is I would choose the word although because I think I've already used it in my introduction paragraph. So I would choose to say maybe though or however or even though instead of although. But since this essay already shows a lot of different uses of vocabulary and grammar, it's not really necessary. So it's not really a big of a problem. Do you have any questions regarding the main body paragraphs, or should I move on to the conclusion paragraph? All right. If there are no questions, let's move on to the conclusion. And in this part, we only need to summarize what we have already written, saying, in conclusion, I believe in the future ebooks will be more widespread. However, because people need capital to maintain the industry, it won't be free. Uh, why do you think this conclusion is good, and what could be better in this conclusion? What is one reason why? Sorry, what is one mistake in this conclusion? And while you're looking for that, I will answer Mariam's question on the chat box. Um, Mariam says, can you tell it again? You were disconnected. I'm sorry about that, but can I tell what again? What was the last thing that you heard before I was disconnected so that I can repeat myself? So basically, let me repeat some of the things that I said, some of the last things that I said. So I said that these two body paragraphs are really good because they use a lot of different grammar structures and vocabulary, advanced vocabulary. And that's why I think they are really good body paragraphs. And they also give really good details with different examples, explanations, those supporting ideas that make the examiner understand that you can support an idea with ease using correct grammar and correct use of words, basically. All right, there's another question. Ansa says, why didn't you paraphrase the question in the conclusion? I think we did. We said ebooks will be more widespread. What was the question? The question was nobody will buy printed newspaper or books. So we kind of changed it completely, saying ebooks will be more common. So um, we use the synonyms, the paraphrased version of the sentence. I don't think these are similar. Do you guys think they're the same? This one and the conclusion? I don't think so. Any other questions? All right. So the conclusion paragraph is good because it doesn't repeat the things that we're already saying. It uses different vocabulary to do that. So, for example, instead of saying money, we say people need capital to maintain the industry. I think that's really good. And we also say widespread instead of common or no one will use them. We say widespread because we remember we didn't agree or disagree with it. We said it will be common, but it also won't be free. And lastly, why I think there is one mistake in this conclusion is that it says won't here instead of will not. Whenever you're writing an academic essay, what you need to do is you need to use the long versions of things. So you shouldn't say won't instead of will not, or you shouldn't use for example, I'll instead of I will. You need to use the long versions. You shouldn't shorten those nots or wills or whatever. You need to use the long version of things. But again, since this is overall a really good essay, this one mistake does not really change our score that much. Let me show you the full essay. All right, so this is our sample answer in the full. If you guys want, you can take a screenshot of this and you can find the words that you don't know or the grammar structures that you don't know. And what I would do once I learn what they are and how to use them, I would try to use them in my practice essays. And using different structures in your practice essays are really important because they actually help you learn how to use them. And once you use them once or twice, or maybe 4 or 5 times, it depends on the student really, you will learn what they are and you will be able to use them in your essay with ease, with no problem. All right, any questions? And while you're writing your questions or thinking about your questions, let me share a survey with you. So, this is our survey, which we would appreciate if you filled it. So, if you have any questions, if you have any suggestions, complaints, anything, you can use the survey to make us hear them. We really take those survey results into account. We really take them seriously and we try to do our best to accomplish your needs. So, yeah, we would be really grateful if you filled those forms up. And if the survey asks for you, my name is Gizem. You can type that in. Yeah, all right. I don't think I have anything else to say. Do you guys have any questions, things to say, anything? If not, this is the end of our workshop. Thank you for joining. I hope to see you in our next classes. I'm waiting for a few seconds to kind of see if there are any questions. Thank you so much. Don't forget to fill the survey form up. Oh, Mariam asks, can I give Anna my Instagram account so we can practice speaking? Uh, I don't think it's going to be a problem. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a problem since this is your only way of communication. All right. All right, then. Hope to see you again. Thank you for the class. And yeah, thank you for joining. Bye.